Hello and welcome to another edition of Sunday Night Soccer. I'm here with my man Mike D and a special guest.
We got Gianna.
How are you, Gianna?
She's thrilled.
She
She's
looks
thrilled.
thrilled. Yeah,
Yeah.
love it. I saw some of her skills. You sent me a video. Technique
I
is looking very good already.
I did. We were hoping to do a breakdown on her left foot accomplishments. She definitely is. What's crazy? I'm such a nut with her. Like I work on her turnout and how to strike the ball. Like when I'm walking with her. But the nice thing is, when she sees a ball, she doesn't go pick it up. She goes and kicks the ball.
That's good.
So
There
that's
you go.
something. Is that
Yeah,
something? Aw. Okay,
that's
Dan,
a
you want to
good
grab her?
start.
That's good. Yep, that's her. That's her
Hey,
crapping on camera.
hey,
She is
there you
taking
go.
a shit on camera. Danny, you want to grab her?
So we're excited to be back again Sunday night. We hope everybody had a good Thanksgiving. You were able to relax a little bit, have some fun. And but we're back with some exciting things, some good topics tonight, as you can see there at the bottom of your screen. So Mike D, if you want to, we'll go ahead here and get started.
Yeah, let's get
As
going.
soon as I can share our screen here for a second. Um, so our first topic is interesting tactics versus technique in player development. And I think what's interesting is, well, we'll touch on this in a minute, but I think that this goes for a lot more things than just soccer, but we'll get into that. I think it goes for a lot of youth sports. But with that, once the correct technique is mastered, it can be used to perform the skill, speed, power, and accuracy, and tactics are the plans that a team uses to win a game. Tactics are developed by the coach and the players. Skill is what our youngest players need to learn. From switchingthefield.com, Ian Barker, coaching guru, teach the technical before the tactical. I think that pretty much sums it up. And then you can see a couple other great quotes and statements there, I think. But Mike D, my personal thoughts on this, I think a lot of it comes back to what we've talked about before. And I know we're here to talk about soccer, but I think that a lot of it comes back to results driven things with youth sports, and people and coaches and parents get all worked up about the result, which leads you to taking shortcuts instead of working like with your newborn daughter on turning with her left foot.
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts?
I mean, so let's set this up. So I think what you see a lot in the buildup or in development at a youth age is exactly what you just said. You're looking for an execution. You're looking for, what was the word you just used? You're looking for a result.
A
Even when
shortcut to get a result to
yes.
win.
So at U7, so what you see when you coach club is you'll see coaches having systems in place that might hinder creativity, that might hinder a player's one-on-one time with the ball. And I think all those things kind of disrupt a player's development. So if we're looking at this and how we want to build, them being the best player from U7 to U10 probably isn't what you're looking for, in the sense of you're trying to put them on the best team. You're not looking for the best team necessarily. You're looking at them for a place to make the best decisions and be able to flourish and understand some of the 1v1 and 2v2 concepts. And I think so as a coach, the way you're breaking down practice is very much heavily technical driven, right? I think out of you have an hour and a half practice, probably an hour of that is based on technical. 45 to an hour of that with a 15-minute warm up, and then the rest of that's concepts. And I think what you're breaking down is the 1v1s, the 2v1s, the 3v1s, and then so on. Those are the concepts that they can see and kind of emulate in the game. Where I think soccer's different is because when you get to the big field, when you get to the 11v11, decision making is what separates you. It's much more up here than, let's say, in basketball, where you can probably get away with the best technique and being able to handle business and make a more of an impact when there's 5 of your teammates. So there's 5 on the court. When there's 11 and there's a much larger space and you're asked to play on both sides of the ball rather than football and all these other sports, it's a little different, I think. And I think decision-making is a lot harder of a concept that needs to be honed in on and developed at a younger age. So the balance of that, I think there's a little bit more. I think when you're training technique, there needs to be a balance of understanding the timing a little bit more than just being able to have the right touches and understand the spatial concept as well. So I think that goes into tactics a little bit. So I think there's more of a dance than I think coaches provide, and it's hard. It's hard, and everything that you see out there. I mean, so you look at the grassroots training from the U.S. Federation, right?
Yeah.
The way that they implement it is technique, concept, let them play. And
Mhm.
that's from the French Federation system. And if you know the French, obviously they're great. But I think a lot of the reason that the French is great is because they just pick players from Africa once they're all done and developed. But I think there's more of a balance there. With decision, I mean, would you agree that decision making in soccer is a lot more pertinent than into maybe some other sports?
Yeah.
Just
And I
compare.
think you made a great point about playing on both sides of the ball because I think that obviously football is different, but uh, in soccer, you know, compared to baseball, maybe basketball, but there's still not 11 people on the field. Even if you're a forward, you have to know the basic concepts of defending, right? And even if you're a defender, you have to know how to get involved in the attack a little bit. You have to know how to pass the ball, create chances on goal, things like that. So I would agree. I think to me, a lot of this comes back to I think people shortcut this because, and it's difficult. You and I both coach, and it's difficult when you're losing, especially if you're losing a lot, after a while,
Mhm.
and you want to just try to
Morale.
win it, and you don't want to just try to win a game.
Yeah.
But I think that's what people get caught up in too much at the younger levels is, you know, the soccer example, right? You got the big fast kids. So what's everybody do? Well, put them up top, kick the ball over the top.
Yeah, right.
The kid scores goals. You win games, right?
Yeah, right.
Um, but what's that kid going to be like when they're 15,
Uh,
16
uh,
years old?
Exactly my point. And that's what
And
I'm saying. So like think about the technique drills that you have with 1v1 situation. You have the gates drill where you have maybe two defenders that can't go off a certain line, and then you have to dribble through each one. It's all set up to have to go forward. There's no awareness that looks behind your shoulder
oh yeah,
there's not a less, a good coach will have pressure come from multiple different ways and working on that. But there's not, it's always forward, right? How American is that? Like getting behind, getting
yeah,
behind, getting behind, and not dribble that sets up space that pulls defenders. Like there's more components on how you dribble. And I understand you got to understand how to move forward. I'm not debating that. But what I'm saying is I think there's some players out there that the way they learn is they want to know why having this technique is so important. So it comes this chicken or the egg kind of
yeah,
thought to where, okay, so if I teach them the technique, then they're going to know the purpose of it. Or if you showcase the tactical of saying, hey, this is why, and when you dribble like this, and that makes sense to them, maybe they have a little bit more passion on implementing that technique. And this goes back to our whole philosophy, Jay,
yeah,
is why playing pickup is so important. Because in the lab, you get those just real instances and experiences of how and when to use your technique and where a quick touch comes into play, where pace comes into play. And that's the biggest thing that I see when I have players that maybe come into my team at a little older. Sometimes that pace and recognition of timing and where their players are on the field um, lacks. And it's either like go, 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 or their
yeah,
first step is always backwards,
yeah,
and so there's a little bit of there's a lack of recognition, and you see the best players being able to slow games down and speed up kind of on their command, right? And kind of understand
yeah,
and have a feel of the pace and the game. And I think that comes a lot from watching. That comes a lot from being
yes.
comfortable with improv, and being able to be a chef within your tactics. That's one of the things that I always like to tell my players is, listen, I'm giving you ingredients. I want you to be a chef, not a cook. I want you
I
to
was
put your
going to
own
tell you to
flavor and
bring
style.
that up. Yep.
Yeah. So, but
No,
and that's what I mean with it. But it's still, I think from a coaching perspective, if we have any coaches listening, I'd love to hear, put your thoughts in the comments on, I think, yes, you can't play the game without technical ability. I 100%. I am not saying that, but I think there's got to be an understanding that goes with it. So I think players are a little bit more inept to have more success with their technique. And let's go beyond dribbling. Let's go beyond passing. Here's one thing that I'll say. We don't spend enough time on defensive technique, and we don't spend enough time on finishing technique. Finishing.
Yeah.
Putting the ball past the keeper, not shooting.
Yeah.
You know,
There's
like
a difference, kids.
there's a big difference. And simplify it. How many times did I see that? And
A
how
lot of
many
people can
times?
shoot.
Yes. But when you're 10 yards in front of the goalie and the ball's coming in slotted and you have a keeper that comes and closes out the space correctly, do you have the awareness? Do you have the composure to slow the game down and to be able to have one more analyzation to move the goalie out of the way and to just
A
put the
lot of
ball in
people
the
can
back of the net?
shoot.
Yep.
Thierry Henry can finish. There's a difference.
Big difference. Big difference.
You know, I think another thing that goes along with what you said is when you have that technical skill, it gives you more composure.
Yeah.
And the more composure you have in those situations, you're going to make better decisions. To go back to, our last topic tonight, our cross culture, we're going to get into basketball a little bit, but think about basketball, right? If someone on your Knicks, or even on a middle school basketball team, if they're not a good ball handler, what are you going to do? You're going to panic a lot more when you get the ball because your skills aren't that good. You know what I mean? So the better, and I think going back to what you said about how do you intertwine both of them, I think if you work on the technical, especially at the younger ages, then you use the game situations, whether they're mistakes or whether they go well. I think that's when you reinforce what you said, because I think kids nowadays they do want you to explain things a lot more. When you or I were growing up, it was like, hey, go do that. And I was just like, okay, I'll go do it.
Yeah, but to your point, how many of the kids are learning by being on the best team, booting into the kid with a mustache that's 10 years old, that's 6 foot tall, that is just much faster?
Yeah.
Where's that development for that kid? What's up, Eric? What's he got to say?
There's one of our Erics already.
There he
Speaking
is.
from a full team standpoint and not individuals, would you say strong tactics can make up for what is possibly lacking in technique?
100%.
Well, that's a great question. Yeah. I think that's something for me as you get older, as the team gets older. Yeah, you definitely, I mean, that's good coaching, right? I mean,
Yes,
that's knowing your strengths and weaknesses of a team. Great question though, Eric. Glad we're out there.
And you know what, as a coach, I'll say this too. When you have a team that maybe lacks technique, it's very important that the team and the players understand that. And so they understand that usually, like when you have a player like I had in high school, like an Antonio Tiscarino that could dribble 3 or 4, at a 4.4 speed, your game changes, and how you're getting win. There's a lot more that you can kind of take risks on and do. But when you don't have that component, there's a lot more of a responsibility that's spread out throughout the team. And so there's pros and cons to it. And, you just got to be aware, and you got to be able to understand your personnel to put them in the best situations and understand what a defense is going to see when the ball's at your foot if you don't have the best technical ability, and then try to get them more and more comfortable as a coach to be able to think and be calm through those situations. And I think the best thing you can do with, getting comfortable with, ball mastery and being able not to panic is angles and body position, and then quick feet. Like for instance, I know for me, I'm a terrible soccer player now, and I'm coming back from my 3rd knee surgery. I had a ball in the box where I thought I could do what I used to be able to do and be quick, and I was so freaking slow when I was being pressured. I just turned the ball over. But it's that understanding where if I'm a player that doesn't have that speed, where's my best choice then? And it's knowing when and where.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Well, and as we finish up on this topic, I'll just add, it goes back to, being in all honesty, playing pickup. The more touches you play in a game, the more touches you get with the ball, the more composure you're going to have. It's just repetition, right? Like any skill, and you're going to be in those situations more times, so you don't panic. You don't panic. So I totally agree. So moving on to your playing days here, let's move on to the next topic. This would be interesting, I think, to see. We haven't touched on this yet. Goalkeepers get no love. It's a great topic. Their impact on the game is less visible than other players oftentimes. Goalkeepers have a unique position with many advantages.
Is there a screen that's supposed to be up? Because there's not a screen up.
Oh, yeah, there should be a screen up. Let me talk to our technical
Jay,
director.
there's not. Yeah, let's get our producers.
Let me talk to the producer. What are they doing the backroom staff that we're paying them all this money?
Oh, that's money.
What the hell's going on? All right. We got to increase the funding. All right.
Yeah, that's right.
Goalkeepers get no love. They have an impact on their impact on the game is less visible than other players. Oftentimes,
I disagree with that statement.
well, I was going to say the majority of the game. Goalkeepers have a unique position with many advantages, though. They can see everything in front of them. The goalkeeper position is also one of the most difficult in soccer, requiring a high level of skill, mental resilience, sharp reflexes. Goalkeepers are under immense pressure because their mistakes can directly lead to goals, and a goalkeeper's key save may go unnoticed unless it's a spectacular moment. So, Mike D, what are your thoughts on that? Goalkeepers get no love.
So here's the truth of the matter. You can't be a good team without an above average goalkeeper.
You're only as good as your goalkeeper.
I mean, I think that and that's what is bothersome about it. And it is one of those positions where mentally you have to be a lot less selfish. You can't be about the glory. You got to be team first. Like the mental attributes of a goalie are just, there's a different requirement because a lot of it is no love at the end of the day. And the goal scorers are going to get the love, the midfielders. But without a goalie that really understands his box, his mechanics, and here's a real crappy part about it, Jay. I need a goalie coach to help me out because I have, and so think about how that feels as a goalie being in that position. It's like, all right, all the team over here, goalies, I need you to do your own thing. So there's already like this separate nature for goalies, but they are extremely valuable. Having a good goalie is absolutely everything. And I think having a good goalie is extremely evident in my position or in my perspective. When you see a good goalie, it changes so much on how your defense plays, areas of, like how you can press up. Like if the goalie is able to come outside the box, he can make up for a bad defense.
Yeah,
He
they
can
can also help
counterattack. He can, there's so much that can transition with a good goalie, especially one that's good with his feet. Goalie is a hard position. It is it's very underrated. And I think in America, especially, we're kind of renowned for, that's usually our best skill set. Not as of late. Turner's a good goalie.
Yeah,
not one of our best. Not good with his feet.
We've had a lot though over the day. Yeah, that is our strong suit. Brad Friedel, the Tim Howards, all those guys. Yep.
So
I really do that. That's one of my favorite quotes in soccer is that you're only as good as your goalkeeper. And one of the most important things I would probably say I've learned as a coach is that you cannot neglect that position, that spot. And I think a lot of times people do. I think coaches do. And I also agree with what you said as a high school coach, and you can probably attest to this. It's very difficult nowadays. Well, it always has been to find someone to work specifically with your goalkeepers. And it's a very unique, specific position, right? You need someone to work with those people. So if you have that, I think it's a huge bonus to you as a coach to have someone else be able to go work with them for a while every day, or even a couple times a week, because it's a unique, they can't just play possession with you all the time at practice or do all these other things. It's very specific to what they do. And I think, to me, I'm not a goalkeeper. I never was. I have a great respect for them because it's not something I could do. I think it's staying focused. Some of the times when your team's playing well, that's the hardest part is you haven't touched the ball for maybe, 20 minutes. I mean, I tried to look it up and if anyone out there can find it, please let us know. I'd love to know. I think we talked about this a while ago. In 90 minutes, right? The typical player, I think, has the ball about 3 minutes of the game.
Yeah.
I would love to know how much time the goalkeeper actually has the ball.
Yeah, that's a good point. But that's okay. So that goes back to like what makes a good goalkeeper, and it's more than just your technical skill on the ball. A lot to me of what makes a good goalkeeper is knowing his positioning and knowing his angles and having that down.
And communication.
And communication is the second biggest thing. For me, I need to be able to, as a coach, rely on my keeper to help manage the game with me and help direct traffic. It's so important for me to have my goalkeeper on the same page as me. So we're seeing the same thing. Like, so he
Yeah,
can
yeah,
direct traffic. He's like you're saying, he sees everything in front of him. So that communication skill is so important. And he also can't get flat when he does make a mistake. He's
yeah,
got to lift his team up. Like, he's got to be a true captain and leader on the field in so many different ways. And that mental toughness, let's not underestimate what it takes to be a keeper. Like, that is really, and especially while kids are going through that. When
yeah,
you're a 10-year-old kid, 12-year-old kid, parents going crazy when you just get scored on and you just quote unquote lose the game for the
yeah,
team. That's hard to digest, to understand, but you gotta have that goldfish mentality and let that go and
yeah,
kind of have that growth mindset of what could I have done better, or recognize that you were put in an impossible situation and there's no reason that this player should have been behind the defense and had that easy of a opportunity to score. Like, you're not going to save everything. It's impossible. The goal's
yeah.
too big. It's not,
That's what I was just going to say. I think a lot of times when kids are any age are in that situation, I explain to them, usually there's a lot of things that happen before it ever even got to them.
Right.
Mistakes that happen before it ever got to them.
Yes.
And I think also what you touched on with mental toughness, I think people confuse mental toughness a lot with thinking, more along the toughness line. The mental toughness with being a goalkeeper, I think, is staying focused. It's one thing to lock in when someone has a breakaway and you got to make a decision and perform your
Hmm.
skill. When you're standing there for, several minutes and the ball's 80, 90 yards away from you, you know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
very difficult to, like you said, communicate, talk to your defenders, point things out. It's very easy to just get unfocused, and then all of a sudden, one big ball over the top somewhere, and now you got to switch back
Right.
on. And to me,
Right.
that's the mental toughness that I think is underrated. I mean, it's very important, very difficult. Oh,
And
we
I'll
got Eric on the line. Here we go. Good goalkeepers will also direct defense when doing the job correctly. They might not even touch the ball on some of their biggest moves. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I'm going to say this. So I think in America, especially with the sports culture that we have here, the goalkeeper is kind of like the kicker in football for soccer players.
Yeah.
As far as a basketball player, a hockey goalie, I had one, shout out Brandon Myers, that was mad flexible and just a brute. Like, he looked for contact as a goalie, and I loved it. It was awesome. Like, he was very good in 1v1 situations. He had to learn how to be in the air, corners, and things of that nature. But there's still different mechanics. Like, I had a basketball player as a backup goalie last year, and he had to relearn how to catch the ball, like
Yeah.
those positioning and things of that nature.
Yeah.
There's still different mechanics, but I think those reflexes, I think that kind of some of the technique you get from rebounding, from layups and things of that nature, actually do translate pretty well to a good keeper, and that hand-eye coordination most
Yeah.
specifically. So if there's a player out there that's looking to dual sport, maybe get in shape before basketball, whatever it is, you might surprise yourself. You might be a real good goalkeeper. You know, I think there's a lot of transferable traits
Oh,
that play into
absolutely.
that.
I've
You
had
know,
several people like that. Yeah, at the high school level. I've had several people like that who were good basketball players, and they decided to play. I said, what, the easiest place to plug you in right now
right,
would be as a
right.
goalkeeper,
It makes sense.
and
Yeah.
and they went on and did a great job. Is that your own personal? What do you think your philosophy is? Is it because of our culture that you think we've kind of
Why
become
we make
renowned for
goalkeeper
that goalkeeper position on an international level?
100%. It's funny because I think about this often with raising my daughter, was
Yeah,
how much we're focused on her motor skills of here,
yeah,
and so I make a significant point to work like her feet and her movement and things of that nature, and working on that coordination. But just think about it, like, from gym class to everything else we do, it's all hand eye,
yeah, yep,
and I can't speak for other countries. Soccer's such a powerhouse that there's just more of an emphasis on that coordination younger, I would think.
no,
Like, everyone's
absolutely,
touching a ball with their feet
yeah.
when you're in Brazil or wherever the hell you are.
And it
You
comes
know,
back to the culture and pickup.
it comes to the culture and pickup. Exactly right.
It doesn't have to be organized, like you said. If she'd be growing up with the ball at her feet, it'd be the first thing probably kids do in a lot of those countries. They're not out there with other sports and a
Yeah.
bat and a ball and things like that. They're just rolling a ball around on the ground, kicking it with their feet, and
Yeah.
makes a lot of difference.
So
We got
go ahead.
well, I'm not sure you're ready for this, but here we go.
I'm easily the best keeper in the family. He can have it. That is fine.
Oh, he is.
He
All
was a good
right.
keeper. He can have it. He's got good hand. He was a tight end. He was
There
a
you
football
go.
player, a tight end. He was a really good. He's got soft hands.
There you go. So,
So that's fine. You can have
but
that. I was the most athletic.
I am with you. It's very underrated, I think. And I think that has to be the explanation for why we've had so many great goalkeepers, on the national level is the athleticism. That might be what you would say is one advantage we do have over other countries, is
Yes.
developing goalkeepers because of that. Kids growing up playing basketball, baseball, catching a football. Um, it definitely has to be one of the reasons why we've kind of established so many great, goalkeepers at the national level.
And you think maybe that's why? Oh, that's a great question by
Yeah, what's the
Cody.
ideal physique of a goalkeeper?
I would say taller, lean.
Yep.
I think probably the typical goalkeeper is what I would say between 6'3", 6'5".
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
able to quickly be able to react to those things. But what's really underrated, I think, with some of these keepers is their athleticism and
I
their
was gonna say
ability.
I was gonna say footwork.
Yeah, like a lot of these, like some of the best keepers that I've seen have actually been on the smaller side because of how
Yeah,
quick they able to get to certain spaces.
yeah,
And at least their impact. But I think in the pro ranks, what you'll typically see is a little bit taller. It allows them to use their length, like when they're the only ones that can use their hands within the box to
yeah.
really make that.
Balls in the air.
Yeah, to really make
Yeah,
that a difference maker in the box is when you have that length. So you're able to deny a lot of things from developing by just being able to get to that ball sooner because you're what 2 feet taller than everyone when
yeah,
you're able
yeah.
to jump up and grab that ball.
I do think footwork is underrated. A lot of people don't
Yeah.
understand that with younger, kids growing up that, if your feet can't get you there, it doesn't matter how good you are, you're not gonna make a save, right? If you don't have good footwork and agility. So that's why when you see all these professional goalkeepers in training all the time, they're doing all this footwork, when they're training because it's very, very important aspect of the whole thing. So I mean, I think that's very underestimated. Whoa, oh,
Oh, that goes off now?
well, apparently, I don't know what
That's
happened.
nice.
There
Wow,
you go.
I mean, that's the worst alarm ever. And can we talk about that really quick? That's the alarm that you get in a hotel that when you wake up, you're pissed off against the world. Like
Yeah,
that
yeah.
sound is terrible.
We're
Like
gonna have
you're
to
at the bottom of a submarine and you're sinking.
keep you on track somehow. I don't know what happened there, man. That was awful, man.
So let's recap this real quick, just so goalies that are listening, and if you're a player listening, give your goalie love. Like the pressure that they are under is much more immense, and you
Yes.
need his mental to be strong. So when they make mistakes, if they have a bad game, lift them up. You've all had bad games, but it doesn't result the same as if a keeper misses a ball through his hands or something through his legs.
Yeah,
Make
oh yeah.
sure
Yeah.
like you got to take care of your goalkeepers. And I think it's a big
Absolutely.
responsibility from the team's perspective, coaches, players, to keep sure that their mental is strong and high.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So with that, shout out to all the goalkeepers out there. Keep up the great work. And kids out there, don't be afraid to grow up to be a goalkeeper. I think a
Not
lot
at
of
all.
times, Mike D, it's a position kids don't want to try.
Mm,
Every team needs a good goalkeeper. So
yeah, absolutely.
moving on, I'll let you introduce our next guest for cross culture, and then we'll get into that. He's
It's
one of our biggest fans.
this is my best friend, my BFF. This is Dre Sargent. He played college ball. I think he played college baseball, basketball player. He is now the athletic director at Lee High School in Grand Rapids. He is the biggest sports enthusiast that I mean. This is why we got so connected. We like to go and just chop up sports. He's someone that on Mondays after football Sundays, we can talk for about an hour the next day on how terrible the Giants are or how mediocre the Bears are. No offense there, Dre, but from Chicago, just an amazing human being, and just he knows his sports. So to get into our next topic, he is the biggest Duke head that I know. And he the way that he follows sports is like me with New York. Like the way he's just like it's
I didn't
part of
even
his
notice.
badge. It's part of his tribe, like his sports teams are. Like they're ingrained. Like me and him speak the same language when it comes to sports. Like we're nuts. So Dre, welcome to the show. This is long overdue. He's also the apparel director for the Soccer Rebellion. So if you ever come to a Soccer Rebellion event, that's our boy Dre. He makes everything look smooth and fresh. So Dre, welcome to the show, man. Glad to have you.
Appreciate the intro, Mike. Appreciate it, fellas. I'm looking forward to talking some basketball.
Yeah.
Well, so each week, Dre, we try to do some cross-culture things, drawing, different sports fans from different areas. Maybe they're not all that into soccer or not, whatever, but we like to touch on other things because we like other sports as well. So you being a big Duke guy, our cross-culture topic this week is we want to talk about Cooper Flagg, big freshman phenom there at Duke for your Dukies. Before we get into that, just got some quick stats and things to go into, but then what we really want to talk about are a couple things, and we'll get to that here with you in a second. But anyone out there that does not know this guy, 6'9", 205-pound freshman at Duke. He is still only 17 years old. You can see his stats right there for the season so far with Duke. First college player since 2013 that's been selected to be on Team USA. He was projected to be the number 1 pick if he would have went straight out of high school in the NBA. He won a high school national championship last year. He was the main, this is one of his most impressive stats to me. He was the main state player of the year as a freshman in high school. He won a state championship that year as a freshman in high school. He was the Gatorade National Player of the Year, and he was the 2022 USA Basketball Male Athlete of the Year, and that was the youngest winner ever of that award. So, Dre, I know you got to be high on him. He's a great player, a lot of potential. First thing we like to talk about is where do you see his potential? And, a lot of accolades, a lot of hype, but where do you see that projecting long term?
Well, when we talk about potential, that's projecting to what they're going to be like, in the NBA in the future. He's only 17 years old, as you mentioned before. So, I just see it as it's untapped. He has a lot of things that he can continue to get better at. He's also leading Duke in all of those statistical categories except for steals right now. So to be 17 years old, just stepped onto the scene. He's played, I want to say, 3 or 4 of the top teams in the country already. So he's been in big moments. I see it as, it's untapped. I mean, he can kind of take it as far as he want to take it. And I think it also becomes fit when you talk about the NBA.
So let me ask you this.
Cody says he should have went to Michigan.
No. So let me ask you this. So someone that's 17 years old, and let's call ourselves the media right now. We're talking about this 17-year-old kid that's getting all this hype, that's handling all this pressure, that's averaging whatever he's averaging, that's at an elite level. Does that not already put him in star caliber like position because he's able to at 17 handle this like he's just known that he's going to be at this level?
Well, I think social media, right? NIL, like those things play a huge role into just the mindset, right? I heard you guys earlier talking about the goalie's mindset and just the mentality that they have to have being back there, staying locked in throughout the game. This is what kids have to deal with on an everyday basis now. Anything that they do is on social media.
Yeah.
So, and it's out there for the masses to see. So yes, I think mentally, I believe he's prepared. That's why you go to a school like Duke because you're on national TV almost every night, right?
Yeah.
This team is going to be everywhere, and as far as they go, right? Hopefully April for the rest of Duke Nation out there. So, but I think that you're right, Mike. Those things that it kind of the social media piece. It either makes you or breaks you. And I just believe that he's now, and I see Christian jumped on. He's the guy that plays more than basketball with us as well. So yeah, he is. I agree. That mindset, man. He plays with that toughness that you want to see. And I think that at 17, that's insane because he should be playing high school basketball right now.
He's averaging 16. He's averaging 16 points a game for Duke.
So let me put that in perspective. So I just looked this up. So obviously I'm a big Knicks fan. Jalen Brunson now averaging upper 20s. Right, had a career year last year. And in college, he averaged a little bit over 14 points
for his whole career.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that, again, different positions. So maybe he wasn't tasked to be the scorer, but this kid is. And so I watched him play against Seattle on Friday, and what struck me about him was that it came easier. His vision seemed to be in tune, and the way that he was directing traffic seems to be that the game's already at a slower level for him. Like his anticipation seems to be a little bit faster, and he's playing at Duke at 17. And that's what I saw as a non-basketball player that's just a fan of the game, right? But watching this, I was impressed by that, and his ego that stayed out of it. He wasn't ball dominant. He didn't need the ball to be impactful. He knew where the hot hand was. He knew who to find. His rotations were great, and he made the effort plays. So there was definitely something of a star quality that you saw him playing. Granted, it was Seattle, which is not a high-end D1 team. But that being said, he even knew how to be more of a role player in that game and kind of pick his moments to be efficient. So from my perspective, he looked great. So let me ask you this then, Dre. Who is the player, if you had to pick one or two players, that you think he most likely will be like in the NBA, or who he could be like?
Well, if you look at the recent mocks, right, for the NBA draft, the two guys that they had listed was Scottie Pippen and Andre Karolinko. If you remember AK-47, he played for the Utah Jazz for a while, then
I
had a
remember
spell
him.
with the Brooklyn Nets. So when you talk about like that blue collar, work, hustling, diving on the floor, all of those things, I see that with Andre Karolinko, but he can score the basketball much easier than both of those guys. And Scottie Pippen, being from Chicago, was, I know the Michael Jordan, hate's gonna come. He was my favorite player, on those Bulls teams growing up, just because of the way he played the game. Now Cooper defends, right? He can also shoot it. He's a lot better, and it sounds crazy, but after watching him against Kentucky, like I said it to some of my friends, I said, man, he's better than I thought he was gonna be. Like, and I just
And
felt
you've
like
been raving
that's,
about this dude for a while now.
yeah, but that's just like an insane, thing to even think, right? Because I'm like, man, like he can shoot it better than I thought. We got to work on closing, and I know Shire is putting the ball in his hands late right now, so that he can get those things together for March. But like he's better, man. The way he passes the ball, like you said, Mike, he hit a couple guys in transition the other night. Just flipped it to him. Right on the money, transition threes. Like he's thinking the game, and he's seeing things, he's not
And he's
just,
6'9".
yeah, he's just not out there playing, So I think like, yeah, he's just gonna continue to get better. I think, I don't know. It's hard for me to put a player on him right now because of just the way he's doing it. He doesn't shoot it or handle it as well, as I know you talked about Tatum with the size and everything. He's not that smooth yet. But Tatum at Duke in the system, I would say he was held back too. So I mean, you got to put him up there with those big wings, man. Like all those guys that can really just get it done in multiple ways. So
Let me ask you. So you compared him to AK, and then you compared him to Scottie Pippen. And so I'm wondering, because he is a white American player, and we don't have a lot of those. Like, let's just be real with it. The last one that was elite at that top level was
JJ Redick.
not even, no, he wasn't top 10. Like I'm saying, we have there's good white American role players.
Yeah, Larry Bird.
wait,
For sure.
hold on, Mike. I don't want to jump. JJ was picked number 7 in his draft, sir.
But
Just so you know that.
he was great. I'm not saying that.
Okay.
I'm just saying he was never top 10. Kevin Love's another great. He's a great one. But for the consistently, you don't have like Kevin Love. Yes, it's another great one. I think Kevin Love probably over Jason Hayward. Fair enough. Kevin Love before he went to Cleveland and then Miami, most definitely. But is there because your comparisons weren't that elite. Scotty, you can say what you want to say about Scottie Pippen. I don't put him in that elite category in the same sense. Is there a typecast that you think comes with that? Because maybe in the white American culture and the way that white American players are being taught the game and brought up to play, they're maybe not being as ball dominant, whatever it is. Maybe there's a lack of hunger. Maybe they're being taught to be more of a role player. That there's a stigma that maybe hinders or typecast some of the viewpoints of coaches before he goes pro, to where they're saying, his ceiling's not going to be as high because he's a white American, and we haven't seen a white American that reaches all-star number one player on the team, ball handler, since Larry Bird.
Right. So, but this summer, I know you was around. I know you saw it with the highlights. What he did at
What that
Team
would
USA.
be, yeah.
Yes. What he did at Team USA.
Yeah.
So to be that young, right? He would still have like 6 months until he turned 18. Still not 18 yet. Like, so to go there and even get on the floor to put shots up, right? Like
Yeah.
even when you go to an open gym in the morning, sometimes you don't take a lot of shots, you take shots or whatever. But this kid's 17 and shooting 3-pointers over Anthony Davis, right? Follow up tip dunks. So, like you said, like when it comes to typecasting and different things, that may be true with certain guys. But with a guy like Cooper Flagg, we already know that he's on another level. We've seen it already, and we're seeing it more, every day. This week, Wednesday, they play Auburn. Auburn's undefeated. This is going to be a team that they rough you up, right? They hit you. So now we get to see how he fares in that type of style, especially when you're playing against 22-year-olds and the other night, 24-year-old in Kansas is big, man. So, that's just me. I believe that, again, like it's up to him how good he wants to be. A lot of guys, white, black, whatever, you don't have those choices. You're not 6'9", you're not that athletic.
Valid.
You don't have that work ethic.
Valid.
So,
And let me make this comparison to soccer then real quick. Brazilians notorious for footwork, right? Like as a coach, like there's some like from the National League and the World Cup, you have certain nationalities because of their federation and the way they train within their culture, they're trained to play a certain way. And like Italians, more defensively minded. Like there's a stigma around that. Brazilians, flashy, footwork, creative, right? I'll put it in that category. I do think there is something to white Americans on them kind of having a certain path that they're not supposed to be ball dominant. There's just, that's just, and I don't know, whatever the hell that is.
Like white chocolate.
Well, he was you said white chocolate, like fine. You like just saying white chocolate. I know you like the guy, but I'm just saying he had swagger that I don't think
that's what I'm saying.
You've ever seen. Okay. But he just was. I'm not talking about swagger. I'm talking about someone that's going to dominate the game, like Larry Bird did,
well,
like Kevin Love. But I just don't. And here's what I'll say: this, the caveat to all this, I think Caitlin Clark kind of opened some doors, even for the men's side of things, with maybe a white American say, "Oh, I can be that." Right, wrong, or indifferent. I'm just saying that there's a culture that is like kind of, with
stereotype kind of
the stereotype that a kid's just going to be like, oh, okay,
a shooter.
Yeah, I'm going to be a 3-and-D shooter. Like I know when I go play pickup with all of you as a soccer player, all I know what I'm going to do is maybe get some steals and a rebound. I have no business doing anything else. But that, I mean, that I don't know if there's anything I would if I could play basketball, I would play basketball and I'd go nuts. But I just think that maybe in this realm, maybe there's something to the culture like there is in soccer, like how you're raised to play the game, Yeah,
but
let me ask you this question, Dre. If you see, is there any, like when you see, is it more about when you see a player come and you see a white guy that comes to play pickup, is there a notion right away that he's going to be a shooter or whatever the hell it is?
Yeah, I think you grow up with it.
Yeah.
Like it's just what it was growing up, right? In my neighborhood that I grew up in, it was only African Americans really, so then when you got to go and play against schools in the suburbs and different things, that's the scouting report. That's what coaches say, right? Shooters or whatever the case may be. So I don't think you're wrong there at all.
Dre, I want to ask real quick, my question for you is, he has his all-around skill set, height, quickness, length. From what you've seen from him so far, what would you say is his best attribute?
Oh man, that's a good one. Uh, I would say defensively, to
Mm,
be
Really?
honest. Yeah, his defense. Um, because again, he again being 6'9", being able to switch 1 through 5, that
Yeah.
was something that LeBron, was praised for early on in his career, right? Because no one saw it. You didn't see things like that, before. Usually, you go get a switch, you get the big man out there, and then you
Yeah.
can, kind of, do what you do. But with Cooper, you can't do that, right? He's help side on defense. He's in the passing lanes. If you watch, he gets a lot of his points off of steals, on the backside.
Yeah.
It's just, again, he doesn't need the ball in his hands for you to be like, oh, that's the guy. No, he's the guy when he's on the floor.
That's interesting. Yeah, I like that.
so what
Last
about this?
question from
What
me.
about this for
Go
a
ahead.
comparison then, Dre? What about a Kawhi Leonard esque? Because when I look at Kawhi Leonard, right, defensive juggernaut, he can score most definitely, but it's just not as smooth. And let me, okay, is that a possibility? Because I got another thing I want to say.
No, I don't. I wouldn't say Kawhi.
So I mean
I
that
don't
ceiling's
see
too
it.
big.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I wouldn't say Kawhi.
Okay.
Just playing style. I just wouldn't say Kawhi. But I mean, do I think? Yeah, I mean, Kawhi is a Finals MVP 2 times. you know, so it's also like we talked about earlier. It's fit. Like, what team is he going to? If he goes to the Wizards, yes, he's gonna score a lot.
Mm.
Yeah.
if he goes to the Wizards,
By the way,
but if he go,
they're saying Philly.
But if he goes to OKC, he's not gonna have the ball in his hand like that to score. And they got to get, and you got Chet, you got
Mm,
a lot of guys that need the ball. So it just depends on where he goes. Like, I look at this as a Carmelo situation with
mm,
some of those teams at the top of the lottery.
mm.
Detroit messed up by not getting Melo, right?
Yeah.
Because they had Tayshaun and some of those other guys. But if he goes to the Wizards, he goes to Philly, any of those teams. I like him in Philly, actually.
So do I.
Because I think that, again, Swiss Army knife, he can do a little bit of everything, but again, he's gonna be that young guy on the floor, and he's gonna make it look easy for a lot of those other guys that's on the floor with him.
Does he have a higher ceiling than Zion Williamson?
Um, Yeah, because Zion
Mm.
don't want to
Can't
get
stand
in
the
shape.
question.
So,
I would
I
agree. I
mean,
would
but
agree.
Zion also was a Naismith play. He was the player of the year in college basketball, right? He still career average is like 27, 22, 7 and something. Like Zion, he's been an all-star already. So like he's still young and what he has going on, I hope Zion figures it out. But right now, he's continuing to be hurt. So I gotta go Cooper on that one.
Mm.
Yeah, that's interesting.
That's
There you
well.
go.
So it's okay. So Zion was supposed to be the next coming. I know when Knicks fell third in that, we got R.J. Barrett. Like that was a
Mhm.
big shot. Like it was Ja Morant, and then it was Zion. And right now, Zion probably the least out of those three. Right? It
Mhm.
probably
Yeah.
goes Ja, R.J., then Zion, just because of the injury thing. But I think if they're all on the court at the same time, healthy, I do think Zion wins that. I
For
mean,
sure.
Ja. It's hard to say that against Ja, but I just think athleticism wise and what he can do and the versatility he can score, it's crazy. So here's what I'm going to say. I'm going to say this about what I think about Cooper. Okay, I'm going to say this. This is going to be quote me. He reminds me of a Kobe Bryant that doesn't fly high. Kobe Bryant was a hard worker, always played defense, and it was his work ethic that made the difference. And if you weren't working around him, he wasn't going to give you the ball, and it was going to take his shots. What I don't see from him now, what I see from him is LeBron's influence in the sense that he's IQ is high, so he'll make the right passes.
Yeah.
But in the sense that he's going to be a hard worker and he's going to do what he's going to have to do to put the team on his back to win games, that's where I think he's going to go. I do think he's going to break the echelons and be is going to be someone extremely special in the NBA. I do. I think there's a dog in him that kind of is just like I was born to do this.
Yeah, I
You,
like that. I like that. Because again, you're already seeing it right now, and I think that when we look back on this pod, I'll see. We can look back in March, April, and we'll see
yeah,
what he's
right.
doing now. Right? See like the jump that he's made from early November till tournament time when all the marbles are on the table. So,
He still only played 7 games. I mean,
right,
That's what I'm saying with the media, man. Like, it's
yeah,
crazy. It's crazy how like the pressure. I mean, but same thing with LeBron when LeBron came into the league. Like, remember the big thing on LeBron when he came into the league was like he'd pass the ball up in the final moments.
yeah.
Like we dog selfishness, like or like selflessness.
Unselfishness, yeah,
Yeah.
correct.
And this kid just kind of he's special. I do think he's special. Um, but he's gonna have to go against a network of players that say, nah, I don't trust you having the ball at the end of the game. And he's gonna
yeah.
kind of have to earn that shit. Like he's gonna have to earn some of these things. But I think if he's able to rise and then show some clutch gene and Dre, I think to your point, he probably knows that in some aspect to where you're seeing that pressure come through on the other side right now. He's
Yeah.
probably super aware of that criticism as I gotta be able to close the game. I gotta be the guy if I'm gonna get to that next. Like that's what's gonna hold him back. If
See,
he's Go
let me
ahead.
say this real quick. So Duke does have experienced guards right now, right? That are really good players.
Mm,
Shire is not is putting the ball in Cooper's hand at the end of games. In the two games that we lost by like 1 point or whatever it was, he's turned the ball over late. My buddy Lou back in Chicago, we went back and forth on this. He's like, he's the dog. You got to give him the ball, and Shire's doing it right because come late in March, you don't want him shying away from that moment, right?
Yeah,
But me, I want them to win as many games as they can
yeah,
right now.
right.
I don't care about that. So I'm like, look, Tyrese Proctor, who's shooting over 50% from three, give him a chance to operate. He's a point guard. He's going to be the point guard for Team Australia moving forward in the Olympics and everything else. Like this kid can really play, and I think that there's a way to build Cooper up for those moments, but you can still win the game as well. So, that's just my thing, and I think that he does have that. There, if you go YouTube Cooper Flag in New
oh,
York outside, he hit a three like like couple summers ago that had the whole everybody from the crowd running on the floor. And that means he wants to take those shots. He wants the ball in his hand. So those are the things that I'm noticing early. Kobe, like you mentioned, shot the 3 air balls in Utah, his first playoff series, right? And now everybody's like, you shooting in the trash can, Kobe, right? Any chance you get that it's a last second shot,
yeah,
the first name comes to mind is Kobe. Nobody
yeah.
else's, and this was
Hmm.
before he passed away. So
Hmm.
RP to Mamba, but.
So let me ask you this as an AD, now going back to the kids aspect, that's a kid that's the all-star on the basketball team. Are you saying that it's every time because there's marketability, let's be real, to the guy that has the last shot, that creates that storyline, that has that dramatic of what it means to be the next level. That's the ice in the veins, that's all that stuff. That's that clutch gene that a coach is going to look at. So how important is it from an AD coach perspective to kind of know the kid that's going to reach that next level, to give him that experience every time, even though that might not mean winning the game? Or do you say who's got the hot hand, find the open shot?
Yeah.
Where's is there a balance there, or
Well,
what's your take on that?
it's relationships as well, right? So it doesn't always have to be a rep on the court, right? So this can come in a form of when you're watching video, with a kid, like tomorrow morning, two of our top guards, I'm gonna have them come in. I just want to talk to them because I want to just, kind of hear it from them. Like, what are you guys seeing out there, right? Because I've been kind of watching and seeing how they manage in the game late. So I want to hear from them, right? And that's how you kind of know, like, okay, who needs the ball at the end?
Hmm.
And Shire clearly has seen these kids for a long time, right? All summer, and then some of those other kids for a year or two already. So he knows, like, oh, this kid won't run from the moment. He
Yeah,
needs the ball, right? So, and I think Cooper will have his moment, soon. But from AD respect, it's relationships. You got to know your guys.
Hmm.
You got to build those relationships, Mike. Even when we spoke to your soccer team, a couple times in the summer and then during the season, right? It's about not only them trusting you, but in those moments you got to know, like, And the only way you're going to trust them is because you've already went over this with them.
Yeah, right.
Right. So, and you build it up. So I think it's more mental reps too, and just getting a feel for the player.
Valid.
I love that, man.
That's a great answer. Yeah.
Appreciate it, Dre. Thanks, man, so much for
Yeah.
hopping
Thanks,
on
Trey. You
here
killed it,
tonight.
son. Well done.
Sure.
Yeah, we
Hey,
appreciate it, man.
sounds good, man. I appreciate you guys. Keep killing it, man.
Hey,
We're
appreciate you.
trying. We appreciate it, man. Thank you.
All right, peace.
Man.
That was awesome. Great
there's
perspective.
there's so much. Like, he is a good. He's such a strong kind of magnet and example of American sports culture, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
And like a Caitlin Clark, like, and how she took over the landscape. And like her being white and that not being seen in basketball,
Mhm.
there is an attention for that because it's different. Because the majority of the people in this country are white. They associate like, oh shit, I can play basketball now, or whatever that feeling is. Like that's that. And I think there's a marketability. Same thing with Cooper Flagg. One thing we didn't get into that I wish I would have had Dre still on was how pissed he is that he signed with New Balance and not Nike.
Yeah.
Like this is all coming. Like this is like it's curious to see how this is all navigated now. And like Dre was saying with social media and like how he's building his own network with the NIL, how he's already getting paid for a lot of these things. Like how much of this is marketability and how much of this is skill. And because of his marketability, how much more opportunity does he get? Like that's
another
honest
thing.
question.
I know this was a long time ago, and we don't think about this anymore at this point. But back in the day, remember, Jordan wanted to sign with Adidas. And that was the name at the time. Nike was this small up, and it's not like it is now. And
I agree with you. Adidas was
right.
I mean? Adidas was everything. Adidas was what
at the time. That was
Magic Johnson was everybody. Yeah,
it
so
was.
I said exactly what I said to Dre. That's funny.
So it's we'll see, but very good perspective from Dre. We appreciate him. Appreciate all your comments. And also look forward here too. We got some big news. Mike D, I want to thank you for joining forces here with Straight from the Training Ground and the Soccer Rebellion.
Yes,
so keep
huge
your eye out
news.
on social media for that.
Yes.
And we're going to try to keep bringing great things to everybody out in their community. So until next time, peace out. Sunday Night Soccer.